Hey all, Scott here from Art of the Genre, and today on the DM Notes series, we're going to take a look at the module B4, The Lost City by Tom Moldvay. And I keep asking myself, why am I not friends with Tom Moldvay? Because once you take a look at this module, and certainly once I've looked at it, I've run this module several times, but every time I do, I know that there's a reason that I love it. It's because Tom's writing. Tom is a storyteller. And to me, I think that's the most important aspect of being a DM is being a proper storyteller because it gets people to buy in on things. So the greatest part about this module to me is its storytelling. And boy, oh boy, does he get it right. So we'll get into it. I'm going to take a look at my notes here. This is going to be a review of the first 12 pages of this module, and that's going to take you through the third tier of the pyramid. And yes, this takes place in a pyramid, at least part of it, because like I said, it is big. This is a 28-page adventure, but that is a misnomer. This thing is a epic campaign and a campaign setting. You can do so much with this. I think the end game of this one could be even to drop it. You could get rid of Against the Giants and just take this directly into Vault of the Drow if you put enough work into it, and then you could head on from there, because this has an incredible underground complex and ability for characters to build themselves up and go into the Underdark if you wanted to, even though it's never mentioned in here. This is a subterranean adventure, and I think there's so many things and keys that you could put in, and I'm going to talk about those in my notes when we get further down. But let's go through the beginning of this. The storytelling aspect starts with the nation of Cinna-Disha, okay? Cinna-Disha. And so you think of that as sin because they get into a lot of sinful things. Cinna-Disha was a grand city, and it could be an empire. Whatever the case, in the city of Cinna-Disha, they delve too deep building underneath this pyramid. Heard that before, right? Tolkien. And they release a creature called Zargon. This is a tentacled, nasty creature that comes out of the depths and hunts through the streets, and they can't seem to control it. They send guards out. They don't make it. So Zargon kind of runs the place, and he continues to retreat back inside the pyramid. So when he's inside the pyramid, he begins to start getting worshipped. And the worship takes place, and it gets rid of the old gods. There are three gods within this, the tapestry of this storytelling, and those gods are abandoned, and the people start worshiping Zargon. Then they go, once they start worshiping, they get themselves into drugs, and they become debaucherous people worshiping this evil creature. And finally, barbarians come, wipe out the city, the remnants of it, go inside the temple, and then below it, King Alexander has actually created an underground complex, and they take stones and stuff like that and build a city underneath. And you don't get to that for a long time in this, but that is the overall story. So we'll go into the Cinna-Dishans. The Cinna-Dishans are still here, although they're a dying people, according to Moldvay. And they have been underground for generations, so much so that they're still human, but let's say like Time Machine, they have turned into something else where they're, he describes them as white-skinned with white hair with infravision. However, Jim Holloway, who did the interior art and the cover art for this, does a different rendition of them. I'm going to let you see the cover art for this right here, and you can make your determination. So with that, they look blue-skinned, which I think is a different way to take a look at this. If they're blue-skinned and white-haired, it gives them a different aspect. And Moldvay gives you a lot of descriptions about these people. Like I said, infravision, they all wear masks at all times. All kind of animal masks and weird human masks and stuff like that. And they're still on drugs underneath the ground. You know, they have mushroom farms and stuff like that, so they're all probably on shrooms. They live in a dream state. They're dying off because they no longer really want to care about building or tending their crops or stuff like that. So they walk around in this dream state with these masks on. They paint their bodies, And that aspect of it makes it perfect for this adventure for the characters to move in. If they put on masks, any kind of thing like that, these people in a dream state are not going to know that adventurers are moving around through their complex or their city later on in the module. So it's a great little overlay by Tom. Kudos to you for putting that in there. And it also gives you the ability, if you lose characters, this is a kind of a cool race because they have drow aspects where they get -1 to all actions in bright light. But the infravision is kind of a cool aspect, and so would be the blue or white skin, the white hair. You could also play them out like Elric, where they're albino, white-haired, pink-eyed, and stuff like that. That's an also aspect to use with these Cinna-Dishans. And most of them don't care about anything except for being on drugs, except there are 3 factions that are trying to restore the glory of old Cinna-Disha. And that would be the Brotherhood of Gorm, which is a fighter corps, dedicated to the god Gorm, who is a fighter god, storm god. And then there's the Magi of Usa Megaris. Again, these are big names in this. Tom used a lot of names, I think, out of Greco-Roman history. So unless you're from Greece, you're probably going to screw a lot of these up. If you want to change some of them, especially the leaders of these guild, except for the last guild, which is Pandora. That's easy to remember. You could, and it might make it easier for you or your characters instead of tongue twisting around a lot of these things. The Magi of Usa Megaris are clerics, magic users, and thieves. And then there are the warrior maidens of Madarua. Madarua also is a fighter, but any woman can join that faction. And then the 4th faction that we're talking about here is the Zargon priest faction. These are the worshippers of Zargon, those are going to be your main enemies in the course of this module. So there's a lot of descriptors, a lot of things come into play here in the beginning of this module. This is going to take up the first few pages, just going into the in-depth history and how you can play out different parts of this. And that's one of the storytelling aspects that I like about it, is the ability that Tom has given you to make a story and make contacts and stuff within, because when you go in initially, you're going to have access to these different factions, and they're going to be very, very important. So when you go in, the first thing you see here in the module is this great little image by Jim Holloway as well. And after that, you go inside this pyramid. Now, the setting of this is a pyramid, obviously in the desert. You are in a caravan that goes across the desert, gets lost, it has no other place to go, and then finds these old ruins. You could do that if you wanted to, and it's fine if you already have something that's kind of set in a desert or you're close to a desert. If you didn't, if you had something that's a sea-based adventure, you could do a desert island and have a shipwreck here. I think that would be exceptionally cool. You could also do a setting in snow. Obviously, I like snow if you've seen my other videos. Or you could do a jungle setting where this pyramid is actually a step pyramid, which it is actually, a step pyramid that you would find in Mesoamerican culture. So you could do that as well, kind of Tamohacan. If you get my reference there, you could do that. Anyway, anywhere you set it, the adventurers are out in the middle of nowhere. They have very little left, and they have to go inside this pyramid. And in the first room, which is tier 1, you have 3 bronze tubes that they can choose from to go down further into the pyramid itself. All of them are trapped. We're going to throw some traps in here. Tom has a lot of traps in the adventure because why not? So, and I like those. I like the options here, and they will take you to different areas. But it's just the tier 1 is actually just 1 room, so that's very easy. Tier 2 is a little bit larger, and it is the complex of the Brotherhood of Gorm. This is where players are going to have to make some decisions now, because you can run this in one of 2 ways. You can get into it with these different factions if you're looking to loot, if you're looking to get experience, if you're looking to get gold, if you're looking to get magic items. You can get all those things on the first 3 levels of this adventure, and by doing so, you can power up. However, the drawback to that would be you create animosity with these factions, and by doing so, you're going to lessen the impact of making a greater campaign at the end game of this, because they can be of great use to you, especially in the aspect that Tom describes, that all of them are willing to take in new members because they're trying to obviously get new blood into their culture, which is dying. They like to have some semblance of knowledge of the outside world, and they're all dedicated to different classes that the characters could do. This is a basic module, so the classes that you're talking about in this are fighter, cleric, thief, magic user, and then they also listed, of course, in basic would be elf, dwarf, halfling. So if you're doing this in anything, if you're doing this in AD&D, which I typically did, if you're doing this in any of the other editions, you're going to have to add in other character classes, bards, druids, anything like that. But they all can be pretty easily put into one of these 3 factions. And obviously the female faction is very easy. If you have female characters, women characters playing, they can just go into that no matter what class they are. So that makes it easy. So that's something to think about when you're in these first 3 levels. And you have to be a conscious effort with your players to address that, because if they go in here just swinging swords, it could have a bad effect on the end game. Nonetheless, the second tier is all the Brotherhood of Gorm. And then from there you go into the 3rd tier, which is you're going down in a pyramid. You're starting at the top, and it's tearing down. The 3rd tier is going to be bigger still, and it's going to have the Magi in it. It's going to have the Maidens in it. And there is a circular hallway that moves on this level that allows you access to different parts of that step pyramid, that level of the step pyramid, and those have ruins ascribed to different parts of the compass, and they are in there as well. So you want to take a look at those. You can use those sigils, those ruins, to give your players, if you want to have a little carrot, or players like to figure out different mysteries, that might be something perfect for you. They're all set up easily, and they're pretty easily to transcribe. So you can set that up, and when you push those, you can the hall will turn to the different aspects, so you can go to different places. And one of the first pieces of artwork you see from this level, which I absolutely love. I've loved it since I first saw it. I still love it to this day because I think it tells you a lot about player characters. And I think Holloway always did that. He always told you a story about player characters, how we really played it, and not how like tough people would go through. In this picture, which I'll show you here, it's fantastic because it's showing this dwarf, and he's giving you the thumbs up, check this out. Either this is awesome or check out the babes or whatever he's doing. It's just a great picture. Like if you had your iPhone there and you bachow, you take a shot of him, that's like a selfie. Like, hey, look where I am. So it's just a great shot. And of course, this was done in 1982, so there was not that easy access, but it's a great piece by Holloway. It introduces you to the Maidens, that's their quarter, and then the Magi are there as well. So you have contact with both of those. And again, you can go in and loot them all if you want to. You can go into it, join these cults, or not cults, but factions. And from there on, you get to go into the meat of the adventure when you're talking about actually killing things, because this could all be moderation. It could be talking. There'd be a lot of role-playing involved in this, which I really like that aspect of it. Again, or you could just be murder hobos and just go in and kill the whole thing. It's really how your players play it. But nonetheless, those are the first 3 tiers. That's all I'm going to go through. And like I said, that's the first 12 pages of this module. The rest of it will be, the meat of meeting the priests of Zargon and stuff like that. So you have to take into the effect those consequences, and that consequences is really what I'm going to say is the basis of the first 3 tiers, and then also introducing your players to this new culture, the Cinna-Dishans, and who they worship in these gods. You could also switch these gods out very easily for specific gods in your campaign. I know in the Nameless Realms I use saints. I could do that as well. Switch those out in there, or if you have gods that you particularly like more than others. I'm particular to the Finnish mythos for some reason. You could put those in there because they all kind of just, warrior, mage, warrior maiden. Nevertheless, that's it for those pieces, and that's going to be the first 12 pages. So I'll do 2 more of these. We'll go through the rest of this adventure, and then I can talk a little bit about how to set up an epic campaign out of it. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this today. I also have another giveaway today. This is going to be the first person to comment on this video. Once you comment, if you are the first commenter, you can come back and get my email from my little comment blurbs, which is underneath this, which also has access to artofthegenre.com. And you can email me directly, and I will get you a copy of another of the Artifacts of Adventure hardcovers. So that is for anyone who comments first. So I hope you enjoy that, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Again, I enjoyed making it, and there will be 2 more parts, so look for those in the next couple of days. I'll typically do these Monday through Friday, and otherwise, we will talk to you later. Have a good one.